So, recently I played this game, The 10th Line, and I was really excited for it because I would see it on Steam, and it looked so complicated that it's right up my alley. It's been on my Steam wishlist for a while, so I was excited to see it popped up on PSN, so I bought it immediately, even if I did have to pay a bit more for some reason. It's got that triple triad card system, it's got a crazy ass skill tree that uses items. The combat is a mixture of turn-based and real-time defending. It all seemed good, and it was for a bit. The characters are fun, well written. I like how all the NPCs in the town all have individual names. NPCs also have different dialogues for each of the three main characters. The developers seriously put a lot of effort into making this world feel believable. It just kind of feels like... it just doesn't feel worth playing. Now, there are multiple difficulties in the game, but I played it in the difficulty that they recommend you do, saying it's the way the game was meant to be played. You're constantly getting items that you use to upgrade your characters. Not just as nodes on the skill tree, which is a pretty cool system. How you build the skill tree piece by piece in the order that you want, using items that you have, and some items give bigger stat boosts than others. But each character also has their own individual abilities that you upgrade by putting items into them. Like the princess, she can either be more healing or more damage, depending on what items you put into that. But you can also put items into her sword to make her pierce attacks better, or her guard last longer. And the same thing for the other two characters. There's Rick, who's able to... you can put items in his satchel, and then every time he throws a knife, it will move along the items in the satchel and will change attributes depending on what item it gets to. And there's your Draco Mage guy, who you can basically change the elements of his breath, and you can like give him an item to munch on. But what's annoying is that these improvements go away after a while. Like, I'll upgrade the princess's guarding time, and then a few fights later it'll be down. It feels like I'm wasting these items since I'm constantly having to feed them to my characters. And it just makes all those rewards seem less meaningful, since they're basically just temporary fixes. And the game can get really difficult in just the most annoying way possible, as your character's blocks require precise timing, and even then just don't really feel that effective. The combat's also based around SP, which you use to perform character skills. But the SP gain for each party member is basically 5 per round, and unless you want your characters to take many rounds off, allowing them to just get hit by enemies, they're not going to be able to do any of their really cool, actual useful skills. They're basically relegated to the basic attacks that are legitimately the weakest, since their upper tier abilities just do so much damage and are so helpful and they actually end fights. So it's basically every fight turns into have one guy do nothing while the other two just try to cover for him. But while your one guy's doing nothing, he just takes a ton of damage and might die, thus losing all that progress. And the game doesn't have a way to heal him. The attacks themselves have really, weak impacts to them. They all just feel kinda meh as they hit enemies. The side-scrolling environment areas are kind of fun to do, as it's kind of like Trine, where you're trying to get all three of these characters around. But if you overextend any of them, they'll end up in battle alone and they'll basically get wrecked. Everyone has abilities to use in the field, although they don't all feel exactly useful all the time, especially Rick's with his rock throwing ability, which aims weird and doesn't really do anything besides knock things off branches. There's all these little bits throughout the field that you can pick up, and they're kind of like Mario's coins where they guide you through the level. But since these actually equivalent to experience, you might accidentally overlevel someone because they have more access to things, such as Rick, who can jump really far. I can't say I regret my purchase, because the amount of detail in this game is definitely worthy of praise. The pixel art is also pretty cool. It's just not really fun to play in the way that, according to the game, it was meant to be played.
Gotta take it easy.